Hello there, my name is Marta, and if you know me, you know that I am entirely a one project person. I'm always jealous of people that can write multiple projects at the same time, or even multiple projects in the same year, and I want to be able to do that too. So in order to teach myself how to also do that, I have devised this experiment. It is a 6-month experiment, and I will be working on my side project for 1 day per month for the next 6 months. So I am currently in the midst of draft 5 for my first book in my project side trilogy, and it's going very well. I'm having a great time with it. However, I think it'd be really nice to do some brainstorming for my secondary project, Project Voice. This is a project that I started during NaNoWriMo in 2023 and haven't really touched since. I abandoned it at the end of Act 1 after getting ill and then just didn't get back into it after. And at the time I just decided I was lacking some character work, lacking some world building. It was being a bit difficult to draft because I just really didn't have enough information to go on, which is weird for me because I've always been more of a discovery writer, and I felt like I needed to plot this book out a lot more than I previously have needed to plot anything out. But for the next 6 months, I will be setting aside 1 day per month to really work on this project, try and get as many ideas down on the page as I can before I get into drafting. I think jumping back and forth between Project Side and Project Voice every month is going to be a real challenge, but I'm hoping it'll be a challenge that will help me become the writer of my dreams and become someone that can actually have multiple projects and not just one project that he works on for 10 years straight. So the whole premise of this video is for me to get better at context switching, and I think I may have cheated today. It's been an entire week since last time I worked on Project Side, so I don't know how much context switching there actually is between me changing from Project Side to Project Voice, because I have completely forgotten what I was doing with Project Side, so I think the answer is close to 0. But that's okay, it's day 1, so we might as well make this easy on ourselves. It's been since November last year, so what, like 9-10 months since I last worked on Project Side. So the way that I kicked off things this morning was I went on the exercise bike and I did my workout, and rather than listen to music, I opened up my Notion app on my phone and I read through every single note that I have on Project Side in Notion. And let me tell you, there's more in there than I was expecting. I didn't realize that I had an entire outline for this book already. Like, when did I come up with this entire story idea? I do not remember any of this. At the same time, there's characters that I know that I made that I don't have notes for in Notion. I don't know if I have notes for them somewhere. I must do, but we'll find out. But yeah, I think what I want to do next is going through Act 1 of the first draft, which I actually wrote in November and then gave up on, and seeing if there's anything in there that's missing from Notion, including things like new characters. And then I also know that basically every character except for the main character in the book doesn't have a name. I was just doing like the brackets personality trait thing, which was really annoying, and it was part of why writing the book wasn't that fun for me last time, because it was just annoying not to have any names, but I couldn't come up with any. So I think that would be a good first task for today, just get back up to date with the story and try and name a bunch of characters. Let's get to work. This is how far I got to with draft 1 last time. It's only like 14,000 words, so I should be able to read through that fairly easily today. I just finished reading back what I wrote for Project Voice in November, and honestly I'm very surprised. Like, it's much better than I remember it being. It's definitely like first draft level, but it's not terrible. And I have a really bad memory of November because I did okay with this the first few weeks, and then I got very ill after that, and I was ill for a long time, on top of being very stressed about my house situation at the time. We were trying to buy a house and it just wasn't going well, and I don't know that I enjoyed writing this that much, but reading it back, it feels like something that I remember enjoying now that I'm reading it. I don't know. Either way, I'm very happy with it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm gonna switch from my computer over to my laptop. I'm gonna make myself another iced raspberry tea, and we're gonna go sit on the balcony because it's wonderful and sunny outside, and I'm gonna brainstorm some names, brainstorm some personality traits other than... So the thing that I've got in brackets for each of the different witches is the main magic specialization, and that's the only character traits that these people have. Other than my main character, who has a name and an entire backstory. So some of it doesn't need work. I'm not expecting to give all of them names and a personality today, but... And I mean, some of their personality is shining through on the page, but I don't really have anything distinct. Like, they all feel very similar at the minute. Because I didn't do any brainstorming for them, I just started writing. So we're gonna try and develop these characters a little bit more and just sit outside. This is very much a spring book, so I feel like sitting outside and having some sunlight while I brainstorm is very much the vibes for this book. It's 9 p.m, so I'm officially going to call it the end of day 1. So the main things I've done today are just go back over the story, read through everything, and then also do a bit of character development. And then I started looking into, when I was naming some characters, I came up with some names for them, but then I also came up with some lore behind how names are done in this world, which I'm really happy with. I think it works very well. However, it means that some of the existing names that I had might no longer work. I think one of them can kind of work, and the other one I'm definitely going to have to change, but it's fine. I'm quite happy with the amount of progress I've done on the story today. Little bit worried that I'm just gonna be so excited about this book now that I'm not gonna want to go back to project site tomorrow, but that's what the experiment is about. So we're forcing ourselves to go back to project site tomorrow, regardless of what I feel like doing. And in a month's time, I get to work on this again. I'll see you then. Hello there, happy August, and welcome to day 2 of this experiment. I have a 3-day weekend this week, which means that I very intentionally spent yesterday on Saturday working on project site for a couple of hours. Today is going to be my project voice day, and tomorrow we're going back to project site since I've got the day off. My brain does not seem to be enjoying that very much, but that is what the experiment is all about, so we are going to try and push ourselves a little bit. So when I finished working on Project Voice last month, I fortunately had the foresight of leaving myself a couple of notes because I had no idea where to even start this morning. And I think what I feel like doing today is I'm gonna put the characters on hold. They're not done yet, but I'm gonna switch gears into world building, and there's a couple of bits that I wanted to research on, so today's gonna be a bit of a research and world building and brainstorming day, I think. I spent a little bit of time this morning just working on doing a little bit of research for my world building stuff. I'm feeling a little bit like lost and hesitant with it all. I'm not really sure where to go from here, so I think what I'm going to do is just call it there for the day and go back to characters. And specifically, I would really like to first of all finalize the names, because a lot of the characters still don't have names. And second of all, I would like to make some mood boards for my characters. I don't think I've ever actually made character mood boards before. I always say that it's something that I want to do, and then I try, and then I just give up halfway through. I think one of the main reasons I'm so bad at mood boards is because I feel really uncomfortable using photos from Pinterest. I don't think it's fair towards the artists and photographers to use those pictures and take them into my own work without even really knowing whose art it is when stuff gets put on Pinterest a lot of the time. So I always try to use images from Unsplash, but unfortunately there's a lot less on there than on Pinterest. But those images are copyright free and free to use for projects, so I feel a lot more comfortable doing that. But yeah, it just means that there's a lot less stuff available. But I am going to attempt it anyway. I am going to head over to Unsplash and see what pictures I can find that might work for my characters. So I've managed to make 2 mood boards for my 2 least important characters. I'm really struggling to do the ones for my 3 more important characters, but we'll get there. So I made this one, which is for my herbologist witch character, side character person. And then I also made this one for a different witch called Ember. I don't have a name for the herbologist yet. I spent a good half an hour looking for names and decided that it's not today's problem. I don't know what I'm gonna do next. I'm feeling quite tired with the whole moodboard thing. It is surprisingly difficult. It doesn't look difficult when I watch other people do it, and then I try to do it and it's just like... But yeah, I think I'm gonna wait until I've developed the other 3 characters a bit more before I try to make moodboards for them. I've got a couple of images set aside, but nothing really set in stone yet. And I don't really know what I'm gonna do for the rest of the day. It's almost 4 p.m, but I have some stuff to do for the next few hours. And I also have a headache, but I might do a bit more brainstorming like in the evening if I get back to it, or if not, we'll see what happens in a month's time. Hello there, it is a beautiful, lovely sunny day in September, and today's writing experiment day is gonna look a little bit different. I have made plans to come meet up in London with my fellow author tuber Malin, and we're gonna go out for lunch and we're gonna go to a graveyard, which I think is where she's setting one of the scenes in her current book, so she wanted to go there for research purposes and I'm sort of tagging along. But how does this relate to my Project Voice writing experiment, you might ask? Well, I am going to be commuting for just under 2 hours to get there and just under 2 hours to get back, which is plenty of time to sit around and think about my project. It's a lot easier to brainstorm on a bus than it is to write on a bus, so I figured we might as well take advantage of that and see if I can do a little bit of Project Voice work on the go, and while I'm at it, you get to see some fun London footage. So I normally think that Project Side is quite character focused, but actually, now that I've been trying to work on Project Voice for a while, I'm realizing that Project Side is sort of in between character and plot focused, whereas Project Voice is very, very character focused, and I'm kind of struggling with it. Like, I have my characters, sort of, but I only have the very basic, like, main characteristics. I don't really have anything that doesn't make them feel super flat. And I've been trying to figure out how the hell to go about that. And funnily enough, Malin was recently on Skeek's channel talking about this book. It's Creating Character Arcs, the Masterful Author's Guide to Uniting Story Structure, Plot, and Character Development. And it sounds perfect. I think this might be just what I need. Apparently there's like questions after each chapter or after each section, I'm not sure, which will hopefully help me like think about my characters in more depth with a bit more guided focus than just opening a white page and brain dumping everything into it, because that's not really been helping recently. So I have a couple of different sections of my commute. I'm gonna be starting on a bus, then I'm taking a train, and then I'm gonna be on the underground. So my hope is that I'm gonna be listening to music and just sort of thinking about the story a bit more passively on the bus. Then I'm gonna be reading this on the train and hopefully taking notes. And then on the underground, I'm gonna be probably also reading and taking notes if I can find a seat, or I'll do the music and like passive brainstorming thing if I can't. I also have some time in between where I'll be sitting around at stations, so like we'll see how much we can actually get. Like, it's 4 hours of commuting time, but it's not gonna be 4 hours of active brainstorming time because I'll be moving around a bunch. And I get to see Malin in between and have a really lovely day out in London, which is exciting. I was planning on starting with this book beforehand and like in the morning because we're meeting up for 1 p.m. As I was looking for the book on Amazon, I realized that I actually purchased this book 3 years ago when it was on offer and I never read it, so I seem to have a lot of books that I've purchased on offer and have never read, which is a bit embarrassing. But I found it so funny that I turned around to tell my boyfriend, and then he immediately wanted to know what book I was buying or wasn't buying, which led to him asking, why are you buying this book? Which led to a 1 hour discussion about my different characters, their arcs, possible plot holes at the start of the story, and basically me running him through the entire outline. This is a book that I hadn't actually spoken to him much about because it's middle grade and it's not really something he's into, versus Project Sight, which he knows basically off by heart at this point, and it was really useful. But anyway, my bus leaves in 20 minutes, so I better go get ready and drag myself to the bus stop, and I will bring you along for the ride. Definitely muted on the stream. Okay, hello, happy October, and happy Storytellers Storytellers Hearth Writerthon weekend. That name has changed so many times, I cannot be expected to get it right. If you haven't heard of the Storytellers Hearth Weekend Relay, it's a 3 times a year event run by Jess and a couple of other people. I will leave everything linked in the description if you want to participate in the next one. I think the next one would be happening in March, potentially. But I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to work on Project Voice today, seeing how I'm participating in 2 streams as a co-host, and I'll probably be watching some others in the background. It is a little after 10 AM. I am currently co-hosting with Malin for, I think, Team 3, but don't quote me on that. And we're just doing a 10-minute warm-up sprint, but my plan for the rest of the sprint is going to be going back through what I was doing last month. So if you remember last month, I was going through this character arc craft book and trying to brainstorm out some of my characters. I didn't get very far. It was... The train was very bouncy. I think I got through 2 chapters before I started getting very caustic. But I did do a bunch of brainstorming, and I have some very scribbly, very messy notes in my Notion. So the first point of order today is going to be organizing that Notion page to be a little bit nicer to use, because the mobile version of the app is just not that easy to scribble on. So now that I'm on my laptop, I can make it a little bit better, and then we are going to go through a couple more chapters and try and just answer all of the questions at the back for all 5 of my characters, and just see if I can flesh this out a little bit. I have 4 minutes left of the sprint, and I want to get a cup of tea as well, so let's go. Oh, and I'm wearing a hat because we're the hat gang. Made it back with 13 seconds to go. I'm all done with my stream with Malin. I had a really nice time. I only actually went through 1 chapter of that book and answered the questions. Even though I was streaming for 3 hours, I did 1 hour of actual time sitting down and concentrating, which is worrying for 2 reasons. Like, first of all, I'm pretty sure we sprinted for more than an hour, so what the hell was I doing for the rest of the time? And second of all, it's taken me 1 hour to go through 1 chapter, and there's 14 chapters. It is October at the minute, which means other than today, I have 2 more days for brainstorming in November and December, and I was hoping that that would be it, that I would, at the end of the 6-month period, have enough to work with to jump back into drafting. And if what I decide to do during these 2.5 days is go through that book, and it takes me an hour per chapter, and I've got 12 chapters left, that basically means I have time for nothing else. That's the only thing I'm doing during the rest of the brainstorming period. So I don't really know how this will affect the experiment. Maybe I just decide that for November and December I have 2 brainstorming days instead of 1. That could be one option. Another option would be extending it into next year. I kind of don't want to do that because I had the idea of repeating this experiment with a different story idea, which is brand new, and then doing like a 12-month writing experiment next year, depending on how this one goes, of course. But yeah, I am enjoying going through this book though. I think it's been really helping, so I'm gonna keep doing it, and we'll figure out how to make time for all the things I want to do when we get to that. As I said, I finished Malin's stream now, and then I went off to get some lunch. I was going to watch Anna's stream, however, I am co-hosting the Team 5 sprint with Mars a bit later in the day and I currently have a headache. So I think I'm gonna stay away from the write-a-thon for a little bit and try and... I'm still gonna work on this, but I am not gonna be listening to streams for a little bit. I was considering just going on a walk and taking my Kindle and my phone with me and just doing some brainstorming in my Notion phone app instead. However, it is apparently going to start raining in 10 minutes, so probably not my best idea. But instead, maybe I can sit on the balcony and brainstorm there. I think as long as it's not windy, I won't get too wet, so I think that's a good compromise. Hello there. I don't think the light is very good in here anymore because it's really dark outside, but I just wanted to come in for a little update on what I've gotten up to. I've basically just been reading the Creating Character Arcs book for the entire day. I did a bunch of it during Malon's stream this morning. Then I sat outside for a bit and read, and then I went back inside and joined Anna's stream for a little while. And then I joined Marta's stream after that, which I was also co-hosting. So I've been actually sat down reading the book and brainstorming for 4 hours total today, plus the time that I was then on streams chatting with people. And I've made it all the way to chapter 7. I think I've decided that I am going to call it there actually, because the first few chapters were a bit more generic about actually going through some of the character arcs and background and backstories and some more generic questions that apply to all characters. And from chapter 4 onwards, it starts being very specific about plot points and how to structure introducing all of those things that you figured out in the first few chapters for the protagonist, specifically around how to structure it with the plot. And obviously that's really handy as well, but I don't think that's that useful to me right now with what stage I am with this book. What I really wanted to get out of this was brainstorming my side characters, which were the ones that needed more development, and I don't think these later chapters are helping me do that anymore. I still went through a couple of them just with my main character and answered some of the questions, and there were some snippets that were helpful, but the amount of time that it's taking versus what I'm getting out of it now that it's so plot focused isn't enough for me to justify doing this, mostly because I have already outlined the story in enough detail that it's just not giving me anything new anymore, and I think that's fine. It still solves my earlier problem of, oh, I have a bunch of other stuff I wanted to do and not that much time left. I am happy with all the progress I've made today, but I'm happy to move on to something else next month. Hello there, happy December. If you were not aware, official YouTube rules dictate that it is now the 1st of December, so I must wear a Christmas hat in every YouTube video. Hold on a moment, wasn't it October a few seconds ago, you might be wondering? Yes, it was. Let me explain. I unfortunately spent the better half of November being quite ill twice with 2 different things, and I just wasn't able to schedule a day for working on this experiment on any weekend day in November. So I considered adding an extra day to December just so that I can actually have a full 6 brainstorming days like I had planned. However, it's not only been over a month since I worked on Project Voice, it's also been probably 3 weeks since I last touched Project Side, which is making me very sad because I had the goal of finishing that book by the end of this year, and I think I just want to prioritize that. So I'm still going to finish this experiment today. I'm gonna do the December day, but we're just gonna pretend November didn't happen. And I'm also not going to be able to finish everything on my brainstorming list. I don't think I would have even if I had the extra November day. I think I've just decided that when I get back into this project and when I decide to draft this project, I'm gonna need at least a week, if not 2 weeks, of brainstorming time, just dedicated the brainstorming time for this project before I get into drafting, which is fine because I've also decided that I'm not drafting it in January anymore. I want to be working on something else. So, all that being said, today is the final day of this experiment, and I think what I really want to prioritize today is finishing characters because, oh my god, I am so annoyed that the main priority of this experiment was to name my characters, and I think I've named one of them in the last 6 months, and one of them I've decided needs a new name. So like, technically we've made 0 progress in terms of how many characters need names. So I'm going to really try and just force myself to pick some names, even if I change them later. I just need something to work from. And I also really want to finish character moodboards because I made 2 of them, and it'd be really nice to make the other 3 as well, so I can have some sense of completion from this experiment. I may not have brainstormed everything I wanted to brainstorm for this book to be ready to draft, but at least I will have finished most of the character work by the end of the day if I do those things. I say that I'm still missing backstories for one character, but that's okay. I've officially named one of my characters. Her name is Morgan. I love her, and this is her moodboard here. She uses like white and red sort of aesthetic and sometimes a bit of pink, but I went mostly for red and white for the moodboard. This choice is in no way influenced by the fact that it matches with my Christmas hat. That was a premeditated choice based on her magic that she uses. But I am very happy with how this turned out. I now have 3 out of 5 moodboards. Unfortunately, the 2 that I'm missing are some of the hardest ones, so I'm gonna have to think about that a bit more. For these 3, I've been leaning into aesthetic in the color of what color magic they use, because when they use certain types of magic, depending on what magic it is, there's like a sparkle in the color that corresponds to that magic, and that works really well for these 3 characters because they have these very specific specializations in what they actually do. The other 2 characters, I don't really have a clear idea of what magic they use, which is a bit of a problem. The main character, it's not clear what type of magic he uses for the first half of the book. Like, he sort of tries a bit of everything, and I can't have a color in the moodboard because that would be a spoiler. So I'm thinking of just leaning into that idea of like that no specialization sort of idea, so like having it be a really messy blend of colors, but then I'm worried that it won't fit the vibe of the other moodboards if I do that. So that's why that moodboard has been in the works for so long. I have a couple of images that I think I would like to use, but they're a bit all over the place, and honestly, despite the fact that he is my main character, I feel like I don't know her well enough to select images that actually suit her that well. And then the other character that I'm missing is like the tutor character for the group of younger witches, and I do know what magic he uses, but he's also like advanced enough that he doesn't just specialize in one thing, so there's also like multiple colors there, and he also does a bit more research as opposed to just magic, so I want to lean into that idea as well. And it's a lot harder to find aesthetic images with research as a theme as opposed to fire, say. But I am going to keep trying with those 2 moodboards, and then I also have my herbologist character who has a moodboard but he doesn't have a name, so we're doing that possibly next. I have finally named my herbologist character. Her name is Hazel. It fits her so damn well. I can't believe I didn't come up with that name before. It was just seeing it written on the page and realizing like, yeah, that's her name. That's perfect. Other than that, I've also made a mood board for my main character, Olympia, and I've made another mood board for the tutor character, currently named Mr. Mary, but I'm not certain on that name, I'm thinking about changing it. And that is all I wanted to get done for today, so we're officially done with the December section of the Project Voice writing experiment, and by extension, we are done with the writing experiment. So starting with the positives, I'm really happy with the amount of work I've done on Project Voice. I think some of the ideas I've been able to come up with have been genuinely really good, and I'm very excited to implement them and start drafting this book when I'm ready for it. And I also think that, because I've been filming this vlog for 6 months straight now, but it's only actually been 5 days. I think if I'd set aside 5 days to work on Project Voice all in one go, the quality and quantity of these ideas would happen less. I think what I've been able to accomplish with this was in part because of taking time off in between, and when people say like ideas are still percolating in their minds when they're working on something else, that doesn't normally happen for me, but having this like monthly reminder of this other project actually helped in doing that. In when I wasn't working on the project for that day, it was still fresh enough in my mind for me to be thinking about it, and then it was easier to come up with ideas for that one day a month. So I'm really happy with how that went, and generally I have enjoyed it. It's been fun. I think it's partially the fact that I've been away from my main project for so long now after being ill in November. Funnily enough, I was ill last November as well, which is why I had to stop halfway through NaNoWriMo. But I'm just really feeling like going all in on project side at the minute. I really miss that project. I want to get back into it, and I was kind of thinking about repeating this experiment as a 12-month experiment next year with a completely different book, and I don't think I'm gonna be doing that next year anymore. I might do it the year after. I think that would still be a really cool idea of something to work on, but I think next year I just want to work on project side. And I think while this has been a great first step into me learning to juggle multiple projects at the same time, I don't necessarily want to always be juggling multiple projects at the same time, and I think this experiment has taught me that. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much for coming on this little journey with me. I hope that you're having a wonderful day, I hope that you're having a wonderful week, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.